What's up, everybody? Welcome to PixelPlay Sidequests, your bonus content every week, Fridays at 6 o'clock Eastern, or whatever time I guess you're watching this. I don't know. It could be 2029 at this point. I'm not sure why you clicked on this video 5 years, or 6 years, I should say, into the future, but welcome. Welcome to 2023. Hey! Unless you're listening to this in the past, in which case, how did you do this? And give me that technology. I want it.
We are going so randomly off topic.
On this show, we never do that. Come on now.
Never happened.
Well,
never.
Speaking of off topic, Sony is making a Zelda movie, apparently. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, that's what blew my mind at first. Like, who called who?
Now, again, this is just somebody's Photoshop
Nintendo
picture of Tom Holland as Link. It's not actually a real poster, guys, just so we know. But we kind of assume it's going to be the case anyway, because it kind of works.
Nintendo called Sony because they're like, Phil Spencer keeps calling asking for sale. We're going to come to you for this.
So they just decided to do this with Sony Pictures out of spite. Like, see, this is what happens when you don't stop fucking calling us. But yeah, obviously, we're going to be getting a live-action Zelda movie. I'm not sure how I feel yet about it being live-action, but guys, early thoughts. Like, what do you think about this announcement? Do you think, like, live-action is the right way to go? How are you feeling about it?
I think I feel the same as you, Adam, where I probably was expecting it to be animated. I assumed it would have been the same studio that just did Mario, maybe change up the look a bit. Maybe it, or I don't know. Either way, I still thought it was going to be animated. I thought they were going to make like an animated universe and kind of go from there. With the live action, it's like, it's risky. It could look like Lord of the Rings, or it could look like a Netflix
Lord of the Rings.
Rings of and you also wonder too, like, again, we're talking a cohesive story. It's a lot easier to make a not that like detailed story when it's animated. Live action, you kind of expect a little more value now. So, like, I mean, look, and this is for me personally from playing the different Zelda games I've played. Zelda is not exactly a story-strong game. It's more the adventure of it. This is where it's going to get interesting, because, like, what route do they take this in? Like, you have to assume they're going to go a serious, adventurous route. I don't think they're going to go too comedy like Dungeons and Dragons did, for example.
Well, I'm going to break this down into a couple. I'm going to break this down into a couple questions. So, like, first off, I think this is a bad idea. Like, I think for one, Link is kind of a lame character, and from a narrative perspective, like, he doesn't have any personality, right? Like, he is a blank slate. We've never even heard his voice, and so there's going to be a lot of
runs, so that sort of counts. But yeah,
yeah. But like, we don't know anything, but like, he's such a blank slate, and I think that you're going to have an issue that unless you absolutely nail it, a lot of people are going to be like, this doesn't feel like the Link that I know. So, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if this is a great idea, but also, like, from a narrative perspective, like you said, there's not much to the story. Like, it's very much a classic arcade or video gamey kind of thing. Go to the temples, defeat the bosses, get the power, go to the next castle, and that's not going to translate super well for a TV show. Like, that's going to have very much like Mandalorian season 1 vibes, where it's like, okay, new castle every week, beat the boss. So I don't know, like, I'm on the fence. So I don't know, I'm not super thrilled by this.
Like, for an hour 40 movie, you could put something together, but like, it's not going to be like super involved. And again, like, there's that expectation of you're going to have him speak now, so you're going to have to really put a good foot forward, because that's the thing. Like, it's a ballsy move to do this, and if it works, it's going to be incredible. Like, if they do this and it even is marginally like acceptable, like if people actually take to this Link, that's got, we just did a Game Awards predictions, that's got best adaptation written all over it if that works.
Yes.
But here's the thing, we know how scrutinized Zelda is when it's bad, and by scrutinized I mean not at all. So people expect just the highest of quality. So you know that if this movie is even marginally bad, it's not going to go over well. And that's the other thing too. Like, you're talking about doing something that's never really been done before with Link, and then on top of that, you're doing it with actors that people have faces to. Because sure, if it was an animated movie, a voice isn't like, I'm sure somebody probably hates Chris Pratt because he's voicing Mario, but it's not nearly as bad as if he was literally Mario in a live action movie. That would be different.
The other thing too is that, like, this is also like Sony Pictures, which made the Uncharted movie. Oh,
I mean, look,
Yeah.
I don't even say it jokingly. Tom, like everybody makes the joke about Tom Holland being Link. He kind of has the body type to make that work.
Nah, you know who I'm going for? Going for Timothy Chalamet.
I mean, that
Uh,
also works.
Yeah.
all I know is they're going to make this story a Link to the Past where Link has an uncle and his uncle is Orlando Bloom because Orlando Bloom is too old to be Link, but he is just the right age to be Link's uncle.
It's Mark
Also,
Wahlberg.
Sony Pictures, I'm going to give you a freebie. If you don't know who Jade Cargill, the wrestler, is, look her up. She will make a fucking amazing Gerudo, and she would love to do so because she's a gigantic nerd too.
Well, here's the question I was going to ask you guys to to kind of bring up. Which like Legend of Zelda game do they go for? Which
You
one
have
would
to
you
go
want
with
to see them
Twilight Princess
adapt?
or something in that aspect because I don't think,
You think so?
a Wind Waker style, a Wind Waker
Not Wind Waker.
lighthearted game is not going to work with this.
See, I would say the obvious choice for me would probably be A Link to the Past, or not A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time.
Well, are you meaning
Yeah.
like literally ripping the story, or are you just meaning like the vibe?
Well, which one do you adapt? Like, which game do you adapt into a
I
story?
wouldn't adapt any game, honestly, because you're never going to make it properly because you're not going to be able to fit all that in one movie. So it'd be better off just doing your original story, honestly.
I could see them doing that.
I would take the vibe the Twilight Princess has, that darker, more like sinister Zelda. I think that would work best because that's how it translates best on film. But like, for starters, do not do Ocarina of Time in film because people will fucking hate you for it if it's not literally perfect. So it would be a stupid risk to adapt Ocarina of Time. Good lord.
I think Ocarina of Time is when you go for.
It's
I
what
think
you
you can break it
should,
down.
but it'd be the worst idea.
I think you could do that one. Like, it kind of makes sense. You could have like the early aspect be like him getting like the Triforce, and then at like it looks like he's gonna come out on top. Things go south. Then he goes back like into the future. Things are dark, and then like he has to go and find all the medallions or whatever. And like you don't have to even do every single one. You could just do a couple highlighted ones. And then
Oh my god. Yes, Child Link is Tom Holland, adult Link is Orlando Bloom. That's it. There's
There
the
you go.
link. There's the link.
there's the link.
No, Chris, you got it wrong. It's gonna be Chris Evans like he was in Cap America. He's gonna be skinny little scrawny kid Captain America, and then it'll finally be big and strong, even though like Link in adult form is just basically a slightly larger version of himself.
Yeah, we all know Chris Pratt's going to be adult Link. It doesn't matter.
But we all agree that Jack Black is gonna be Tingle, right?
I mean, I wouldn't be upset by that. That might be perfect casting. Oh my gosh! Like, I think that might be perfect casting.
You don't have to
Jack
give.
Black
Don't even
is
have to
the
give.
Nintendo man.
Jack Black doesn't even need to act. He just shows up as himself.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm Tingle. What's up? Honestly, I don't think they'd adapt. I think that Ocarina of Time would be a good one to adapt, but I have a feeling because of the success of Breath of the Wild and stuff, I have a feeling it's going to be like a Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom kind of movie. Just because it's so recent and it's best-selling one, it's like the one that has all the hype right now, even with people that didn't know Ocarina of Time back in the day. I
And to
think
be fair,
Ocarina of Time is where they should kind of go, but
Breath of the Wild also has enough story to fit in a 2-hour movie. So
it does.
Yeah,
I'm
like
awake.
that's why I'm kind of leaning to the original story. Like you can take a vibe, like an aesthetic from one of the games and use that, but I think at this point, like in the same way that like everybody thought, well, how are they going to do a Super Mario Brothers movie? And they just did something completely far and away from what we would expect. I honestly think that what they'll do is they'll just make something from scratch. Because in all honesty, too, like I don't think there's any Zelda game you could pack into one movie. You would have to make it a multi-movie deal. And I think that that would be a risky thing to start with. So if they do an original story that has a definitive ending, then you can gauge how that goes. And if you want to adapt another game story, you can do that afterwards potentially.
but just
Yeah.
remember, like, you don't have to like have every single beat of a Zelda game because it doesn't have to be a shot-for-shot remake. Like, look at what The Last of Us did, right? You just
Yeah,
need to
but
get
you know
hit
people are
the
going to get
story
real
beats.
salty if the Goron Mountain isn't in there.
I mean, you could have the Goron Mountain, like, but you don't need to have every single temple. You don't have to have every single aspect, right? Like, you just
So
have
we
to
have
hit the
Young
main
Link for
story
30
beats.
minutes to introduce the story. We have 15 minutes of like montaging and walking and talking to get all the stuff that he needs. And then the other like 45 minutes will be the actual Ganon stuff. Okay. Like that's kind of where my brain's like, there's there's the pacing would be so difficult to do with some of these games that it feels like it would just be easier to do something from scratch and just work from there. Like you can take the basic pieces of what makes a Zelda story itself without having to take original or not original material. Well, I guess original canon material that already exists. Because again, you're also thinking about people are gonna fine tooth comb that shit, and then on top of that, like I said, there's just it would be really difficult to fit all that in one story. Like, sure, if they want to make Ocarina of Time a 3-movie deal, you can try, but like if the first one sucks, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. I think that it will be an original story, but I think they're going to pull a lot of elements from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be call-outs of like other things. Like there will be some sort of like there will be like, you know, certain weapons or things that show up that are reminiscent of some of these things. Like I'm sure we'll get that.
I think they're going to take the Ganon part of the story from the 2 games, because like Breath of the Wild is just Ganon has taken over the castle and he's this giant cloud boar thing, and then Tears of the Kingdom, it's like this Ganon backstory that they have, and it's actual like Ganondorf in that one. So I think that they could take the Ganondorf and Ganon story from those games and fit it into one movie. But when it comes to all of the Link stuff and everything, not like go through the temples in the same order or any of that. I think they'll just use like that concept of Ganon and the castle and that whatnot from those recent games, and then just kind of make an original narrative that would make sense on film, with again there being a Hyrule castle and a Ganondorf war and whatever, and now there's a big Ganon cloud monster. I don't know. I think it'll be something along those lines. I don't know. It's so hard to tell. They have so much material, and it's the first time they're doing this, and they're going live action, which Link has never actually been. So I don't know. This is tough.
There's only one other live action that Nintendo did. It's the Mario movie, Super Mario movie.
That's
We
not
don't
good.
talk about that.
We don't.
I'm just surprised. Like, I mean,
So
I
what
understand
we're
why
saying
Legend of
is,
Zelda.
so Link is gonna show up in like the middle of downtown London, and that's gonna be Legend of Zelda.
Is it Dino City?
Oh, maybe.
Oh.
I just like, I don't know. Like, I get why they're doing Legend of Zelda. I think it's like the second biggest Nintendo property after Mario, but like, it doesn't lend well to. I don't know. For me, it doesn't
animated
lend
would
well
have
to
helped it so much more. Like you could do that
think
so
it's
easily.
animated.
If you want to do an overarching story, a show could do it really well. But I mean, they'd probably stick to films. But an animated show would be so easy to do what you need to do.
And here's the question: is Nintendo going to do something beyond like a PG movie? Like, are we thinking PG-13 or even like?
Well, and the other thing too, like
Rated
think of
higher?
the monsters that are in Zelda games. Like that CG, like what are the odds that it's going to be good CG? Because that's the other thing too that now we're looking at with live action. Like, you know, we're talking about like these giant blob monsters or a flaming like flying dragon thing. Like, unless that budget's going pretty high, that CG is gonna be pretty rough in some spots. I think it's gonna be interesting because like all I think of immediately is Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter wasn't great to look at. So
Yeah, but the CG wasn't the issue with Monster Hunter.
well, everything was the issue with Monster Hunter.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll go full high budget like Lord of the Rings, and it'll be all makeup and costumes, and it'll be an Oscar contender.
Well, because you know you could do a Legend of Zelda game that doesn't really involve monsters. It could just be, you know, fighting like it could be a war against the Gerudo. Like you could do a lot of weird things with it that could be interesting, but like, you know, there's a lot of directions you could go that don't even require to use a lot of CG for giant monsters. I mean, obviously you'll have to have some aspect of monsters, like otherwise you need a giant spider somewhere. We know there needs to be a giant eye to shoot. That is a guarantee, right?
Yeah. I can see goblins being like people in costume with like good makeup. I don't know if it would look good, but I could see them doing that. But yeah, how do you do the Deku tree? How do you do the giant spider? How do you do
Deku tree wouldn't be as hard. Like
everything.
you would just give like Tim Burton a call and be like, what would you do?
It's claymation. It's
Get
Tom
Johnny
Holland
Depp on the
walking
phone. That's what I do.
around. Yes. There we go. Talking to Jack Black, who's Tinkle.
No, we need
Hanging around Johnny Depp the tree.
Who? Okay, is Tommy Lee Chong would be a great Deku tree because all people did was name their character My Dude. So just seeing this old ass tree just going My Dude.
Yeah, this one's tough. I don't know.
Like, I'm
this could go either
definitely
way.
excited to see what they do, but it's a very quenched like or very quelled like I'm excited Question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we had our doubts when they announced the Mario movie, and that stuck
But
the
I gave it
landing,
more
so,
rope
I mean,
because it was
Yeah.
animated. This time around, I'm a little more concerned.
nah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm gonna give them the benefit of the
I mean,
doubt.
I'm gonna watch it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
When Witcher was announced as a series and it was like Henry Cavill and stuff, I was one of the people where it was like, this guy's like handsome and in his mid 30s. Like Geralt doesn't look like this. And he ended up being like the best part of it. And the show was
He's a
good at
gigantic nerd
first.
too.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe this could just completely throw us all for a loop. And it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
Or Chris Pratt is gonna play Link, and we're just gonna start rolling our eyes.
Yeah. It's going to happen.
But yeah, any last thoughts before we take this sucker off the air?
No.
Yeah. Do the movie without Link saying a single word. Do it.
Yeah,
Just
you
do it. He says,
cowards.
hey, no, don't do that. Please don't.
All right, well, that's going to do it. So, obviously, in the comments below, what do you guys think about this movie announcement? Like, what do you want to see from this? Would you rather been animated? Here's an even fun question. Do you think it's even going to make it to theaters? Do you think it's even going to release? Because it's not the first time that we've heard something like this being started. So, you never know. But obviously, leave that all in the comments below. Obviously, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Linktree/PixelPlayPodcast for all our socials. It's linktr.ee/PixelPlayPodcast. Link to our socials, link to our Discord, link to wherever you can get the podcast, which obviously every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And then obviously this show goes up every Friday at 6 p.m. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your day wherever it may be or whenever it may be. And we will see you on the next episode of the podcast where we see just how wrong all three of us are at the Game Awards nominations.